things change so much that what's going to shape the next election, we can't even imagine right now. Could be anything.
Not right now, but I know why the Republicans did not do so well in the midterms.
Why?
Well, I don't know it. I believe it to be the case. First off was the Supreme Court that was stacked, and they did away with Roe versus Wade. 70-some% of the American population supports abortion in some way, shape, or form, not as a form of birth control, but as a form of protection against harm to the mother, inviable fetus, and it's just a woman's right to choose for her own health. When you have 25% of the country running what 75% of the country wants, then there's a problem. You're going to get backlash.
Sure.
And the backlash came in the form of states putting it in their constitutions on referendum.
Yeah.
And people listening to politicians who were saying, well, if I get elected, we're going to go for a national abortion ban. But that didn't set well with 76% of the population.
Yeah.
I think that had a lot to do with it. Plus, they had a lot of Democrats played a fair game of shell game there by backing Trump followers for office. And people didn't want them. They backed election deniers. People didn't support the election deniers. The only thing I think is the young man in Colorado should have stuck it out and let him do a recount, because I think he could have beaten Lauren Boebert.
Yeah, you may be right about that. You may be right, but
it was sad.
I guess
I was hoping, even in Virginia, now I got stuck in a district that was gerrymandered to heavy Republican, which just killed my soul.
Yeah.
We lost a very good congresswoman, Elaine Luria, and got one that is a very much anti-abortion, anti-women's health, and yet she's a nurse practitioner. And the sad part was that the courts said that the redistricting in Virginia, one district I am in, was gerrymandered badly and needed to be redone. But they can wait until after the election to redo it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that made sense.
Now, speaking of 2024, if Joe Biden does not or cannot run in 2024, what do you think the Democrats' plan is going to be?
I did a little looking. And the political minds out there had a list of about 10 or 11 people that they think would run for president. My feeling is that they need to look other than at Bernie, although I love Bernie, maybe go to Andrew Yang, but I'm not sure he'd run again. The list of people I looked at, and I'm going, no. First off, I don't think Kamala Harris has done anything to put herself in good light. I think she may be doing things that would put her in good light, but she's keeping that light under a bushel.
I've wondered about Kamala Harris from time to time in terms of the approach that they're taking, and I can't help but wonder if they're doing kind of what they did with Biden in 2020, where I think the strategy was lay low, not a whole lot of campaigning, certainly compared to Trump. And I wonder sometimes if that's what they've been doing with Kamala, keeping her kind of low profile. She'll have a cleaner slate, for good or bad.
Exactly. But I looked at this list of people that their different groups are pushing, and I'm going, I don't know this one. I don't know that one. I've never heard this one. And then the names like Gretchen Whitmer, Stacey Abrams, Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, and Kamala Harris.
Sounds a lot like 2019.
Exactly. One that is on the list is Roy Cooper. And I'm not sure Roy Cooper could pull it off. He is the Democratic governor that's had 2 terms in a Republican state.
Yes.
But then I'm looking, and there's an awful lot of females on here, and as I said before, I'm not so sure this country would scope for a female. And I know Stacey Abrams would be an excellent person, but I'm not sure she's ready to be president. Too much baggage.
Yep.
And Kamala Harris. She just doesn't have an outward going profile in the current administration. Have you seen anything she's done?
No, nothing.
That's my problem.
I mean, the only time her name ever even comes up is if she's being criticized on social media for not doing something, or...
Exactly. Mayor Pete, I would have voted for him in the first place, but now he's got a few things going on in his closet that are not real good.
Well, and that kind of harkens back to what I mentioned a moment ago about Kamala, where, you know, somebody like Pete Buttigieg had a cleaner record in 2019, whereas now they have plenty to use against them.
Exactly. And so I'm looking at this list of potential candidates if Biden doesn't run, and it's like, I don't know, but I sure don't want DeSantis or Abbott or Trump.
Yeah.
Surely there's somebody out there that's better than that. I think the field's wide open.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're ready for a female. And I definitely don't think they're ready for a female, this is going to sound terrible, a female of color.
Right.
They're not ready for a female, period, and not a female of color. I admire Stacey Abrams. I think she's dynamic and has a good head on her shoulders and would work for the good of the nation. Same with Kamala Harris. I just don't think the rest of the country is ready for that. Some of these I don't even know. Gina Raimondo, she was the governor of Rhode Island, and now she's the Secretary of Commerce.
Right.
What has she done? I've heard nothing. I found it very disheartening that people are blaming, including most of the Republicans in Congress, blaming Joe Biden for the withdrawal from Afghanistan. That was all set up by Trump before he got out of office.
And Trump's response to that is like, yeah, I set it up, but I never would have done it like that. That's what Trump says. That he did it all backwards.
Wouldn't have had a choice, because if we had not gotten out of the country by the day we got out, the next day we would have been in all-out war again. Then I look at the Republican roster of people who are toying with throwing their hat in the ring, and I'm seeing Glenn Youngkin, which I wouldn't vote for him on a bet, DeSantis, 2 or 3 other Republicans that I wouldn't trust, and Trump. It's like, why? They're literally old, bald white men. Every aspect of a woman's life, and you should be happy about it.
Yeah.
No, this is not 1950s, 1940s. We've been liberated way too long. No, can't put that genie back in the box. I'm sorry, Mr. Youngkin got caught on a hot mic talking about when he got control of the Senate in Virginia, he was going to push through a change in the Virginia abortion laws. He's tried, but it's been stymied in the Senate. His change isn't that big, but it's big enough. Going from 23 weeks to 15 weeks is not a doable thing. 15 weeks should be enough, but 23 is better. At least they're better in Virginia than they are in North Carolina, where they are even making it impossible to get the pill, which is going over the counter. But now they want it to be prescription only.
That's happening in a lot of places right now.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, since we've done this a few times before during this season, what is Joe Biden's grade right now on the Dr. Barbara Tabor report card?
I truly believe I've given him a C pretty much all along, but I think he's flipped to a C minus here, maybe a D plus. It comes back down to marketing and floundering. He's trying very hard to make things better and make things work. He's come up with more on immigration than he had in the past, but he's being stymied with inflation. I mean, you got to give him props for unemployment. Got to give him props for working on getting gas prices down. Support of Ukraine and NATO, but marketing, it needs a better marketing. Losing the House, that was not a good thing, although didn't lose it by much.
No.
And they kept the Senate and actually got another seat.
Yes.
On the one hand, he got the seat. So I guess I'll stick with the C minus, because he did manage to get another seat in the Senate and managed to only lose a few seats in the House instead of a whole lot of seats.
Yeah.
And as I said, a lot of the problems where they lost seats was a direct result of redistricting. I would say, yeah, he deserves it, a C-. When he is in conference with world leaders, he's not reading from a script. And they're talking substantive issues.
Yep.
So why can't he talk to the American people in the same way?
As we delve into the developments of 2023, many are curious about the ongoing challenges surrounding our former president, the many legal complications, the upcoming 2024 election season, and much more. So here we are. It's really the perfect moment for this because there's a lot going on in real time as we record this show. So let's talk about Trump.
Well. What can I say? He's already been found guilty of defamation of E. Jean Carroll and then turned around and defamed her again. So he's got to go back to court on that one. He's facing criminal charges over hush money payments in Manhattan. He's awaiting the decision of Fani Willis as to whether or not he's going to be indicted in Georgia over trying to solicit fake electors or changing the election results in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
He's already been arraigned in Florida over maintaining secret documents that he really shouldn't have maintained. And then today, he's arraigned on 4 felony counts, which I found to be very entertaining. It's sad to me to even think that a president of this country could absolutely not believe in fair play, in free and fair elections, and must insist on the fact that the elections were tainted and terrible, even though they lost all but one lawsuit that they had about the elections and election machines and so forth. And the one that they won was a procedural vote. It wasn't about the efficacy of the voting machines or the voting process. It was a procedural win. Didn't affect any votes. Every one of the trials that they had, the lawsuits that they had, were either dismissed or found that there was nothing wrong with the voting, that the amount of dead people voting was not enough to change the election because most of those were Republican votes, especially in Pennsylvania. That was the big one in Pennsylvania. But today he was arraigned on 4 counts that are all felonies. It could land him in prison for one of them's 5 years, one of them's 10 years, and the rest of the other 2 were 20 years. That's a long time when you're 77 years old.
Yeah,
so
sure
he was charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States, witness tampering, conspiracy against the rights of citizens. That was denying us our vote, and an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. That was when he tried to force Mike Pence into taking the fake electors for the Electoral College count on January 6th. And so these are things that directly impact our rights as citizens of this country. Sure. And nobody has the right to do that, especially not the President of the United States, because until the 20th of January, he was still the president, which is sad to think of, I'm sorry to say. When I was in college and in high school, I was taught history by pacifists. So I never learned about war and things that occurred in war. I didn't even know there was a Vietnam until I was in college. And by then, we were pulling out of Vietnam. Yeah. Although I did get to send my cousin off to Vietnam, and that was not fun. I just never thought I would see the day that someone in such an office would try and take my vote and say, your vote doesn't count. Your vote only doesn't count if you don't vote. Anyone who watches what Trump has been doing, what DeSantis has been doing, and a few other Republican governors have been doing, is the most unconstitutional deprivation of our rights. It mocks and follows exactly the footprint of the Nazi regime in World War II. Anyone who doesn't look like you is a bad guy. Removing the rights of bodily autonomy from people who've had that right for 50 years. I mean, oh, geez. I won't spend a penny in Florida, I will tell you that right now. I will not go to Florida for any reason, as long as DeSantis is the governor. And right now, his poll numbers are falling, unfortunately. Trump's are skyrocketing, and it just makes me sick. I don't think there is anyone in the field of the Republican candidates out there that are capable of running this country.
Let's just say Trump is the candidate, because right now it seems like that's going to be the case. Do you think that he has a shot at winning against Biden?
God, I hope not.
How would that look?
There is nothing in the Constitution that says he can't run for president from prison.
You think he could pardon himself?
It's sort of what he's banking on with these trials, because they're trying to push them past the election so that if he wins the presidency, then he could pardon himself and make them all go away, all the federal ones.
Yeah.
What he can't make go away is Georgia, is New York, is any other state that wants to bring charges against him for meddling in their elections. He can't, as President Trump, who, bad choice of words there, the legal systems within the states. He can only do it in federal. So, yeah, he could pardon himself for the federal charges, but not for the state charges.